Hi, on this episode of In the Kitchen with Andy, I'm going to show you how to make absolutely delicious homemade pasta. And this is one of those things that's so impressive to so many people, only because they don't know how simple it is to make. So I'm going to show you with a few simple ingredients how you can make absolutely delicious pasta, and then we're going to turn that pasta into something called Rotolo di Spinachi, which is a real showstopper and a great dish for a dinner party. So I hope you stay tuned and learn how to make this incredible pasta and then turn that into an amazing dish. Stay tuned. On this episode of In the Kitchen with Andy, we are going to make a fantastic Italian dish called Rotolo di Spinachi, which is a roll of pasta stuffed with spinach and a little bit of cheese and ricotta, and it is absolutely fantastic. And it starts off with homemade pasta, which is far simpler than you might think. This is, after all, how so many Italians make their pasta almost every day. So what I've got here are two different types of Italian flour. They're both non-GMO Italian flour. This is a 00, which is just a fine grind of flour. This is absolutely excellent for homemade pizza dough, and this is what I use for pizza dough just by itself. And today I'm adding in the semolina flour because we're making pasta. So I've got a cup and a half of each of these already in the bowl. To that I added about a teaspoon of salt, kind of stirred it up with my fingers just to get it evenly blended. And now I'm going to turn on the mixer. And here I've got a combination of 4 tablespoons of olive oil and 4 tablespoons of water. Just going to pour that in slowly. And it's going to start combining. Now a lot of people will do this and mix it all by hand in a little pile of flour on the countertop. I don't really find that it makes a difference. Making your pasta this way is just as good. All right, so I've got the oil and water in there. I'm going to turn this off just for a second. Now here I've got 4 lightly blended eggs. Gonna get that in there. And turn the blender back on and let this get going. Okay, so we're mixing away here, and every now and then you might need to knock down the sides of the flour in the bowl a little bit, and that's exactly what I'm going to do now, so it can keep on blending away. And I've got this on a pretty low setting. We're really just looking to get it combined and start forming a ball of dough, and then we're going to knead it out here on the countertop a little bit, and then it's going to sit for half an hour. I think it's just about there, good enough to start combining. I'm going to call it quits there with the blender, the mixer rather. Get that dough out of there. So not everything is combined in it yet. There's still a little bit down there in the bottom of the bowl, and I typically just kind of mush that into the center. There's a good amount of moisture in this, so it's fairly sticky. So I can get that to stick, and then I'm just kind of folding that into the center of the dough here. So now I'm just going to start rolling it out on the countertop. Should probably get a little bit of flour down on the surface just so it's not sticking to the countertop here. Let me get stuff out of the way. And all this is a matter of folding it in half, spinning it the other way, folding it in half again, smushing it down. And you just do this for a few minutes, and it'll really start forming a nice ball of dough. And one of the things you can do to test it, it should be getting sort of springy. And what you can do is push your knuckle into it, and if it bounces back, you're pretty darn close, because that tells you it's getting pretty nicely developed. So I'm going to do this for a little bit more, just to make sure we've got it really nicely blended together. And then all I'm going to do is wrap it up in some plastic, put it in the fridge for half an hour, and then we're going to start rolling some pasta. So that feels pretty good to me. It's very springy, nice and firm. Put my knuckle in there, and it bounces back pretty darn fast. So let's get this wrapped up. Maybe get a couple more. It's definitely a little bit of a workout. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up in just some saran wrap, and put it in the fridge for about a half an hour, and we'll come back and start cutting this up and rolling out some pasta. Stay tuned. Okay, so while our dough is resting in the refrigerator for a half an hour, I'm going to take this time to start making the filling for our roti di spinachi, which of course is spinach. So this too is pretty simple. Start getting my pan heated up. I've got a good sized bag of spinach that I've just kind of coarsely chopped, and get my pan starting to warm up. Got a little bit of butter. Toss that in there. Let that start melting down. You can add olive oil to this if you'd like as well. Butter is pretty good for me. And as soon as we get that butter melting a little bit, I've got some freshly minced garlic. I'm going to add that in and just let it start softening up. Don't want this to get too darn hot. We don't want burning, we just want cooking. Okay, so get my garlic in there. Throw a little bit of flour on there. Get the garlic going. Oh, that immediately just smells so wonderful. Now before things start burning, I want to get my spinach in there and start getting this to cook down. And it is amazing, if you've ever cooked spinach, just how quickly, whoops, spun it a little bit too fast, just how quickly this will cook down and just become a brilliant dark green and just be, you know, super flavorful and beautiful, and just an awesome filling for our spinach, or our pasta rather. So once this cooks down, I've got a 50-50 mix here of ricotta cheese and some flavored cheese. Today it's rondellet. I use alouette as well, and this is the garlic and herb version, because I thought I'm putting a little bit of garlic in the spinach, so the garlic and herb version of the cheese I thought would blend very nicely. So this doesn't take much time at all to get this to cook down. Just put a little bit of salt over the top and keep spinning this stuff, keep turning it. And you can see it's already getting quite a bit smaller. Gets a really deep green. Let's get my other leaves in there. And it doesn't take much time at all. It's smelling great, it's looking great. I've got leaves all over the place. Okay, this is looking really good. And so now, I've got a little bit more spinach over here. I think I'm going to finish off this bag that I had and just get everything in there. I want to make sure I've got enough to really fill this thing up. Okay. All right, I'm going to let this just cool off for a little bit, and then we're going to add in the cheese and just set that aside, and then we'll wait until our pasta is rolled out, and we'll spread that over the top of the pasta and roll it up and get it in the hot water. So stay tuned, there's more fun to come. Okay, so I've let the spinach cool down just a little bit, and now it's time to add in some of our delicious ricotta and rondellet cheese mixture. And again, I'm using the garlic and herb rondellet this time. It's really sort of a matter of taste, how much or how little of this you want to add in. Some people, my wife likes it a little bit more spinachy. I like it with a little bit more cheese, but it's really your call. I just kind of mix it in there until I get a good blend of the two. And in the description on the recipe, I'll try to be a little bit more accurate as far as how much went in there, because I generally don't really measure all that many things. So that's looking pretty good to me. So it's a nice, consistent mixture. Very cheesy, very spinachy. Got some garlic in there, just a little bit of salt. And I'm going to set that aside, wait for our pasta to get ready. We're going to roll out the pasta here and spread this delicious filling on top of that pasta, and then we're going to roll it up and boil it. It's going to be fantastic. Stay tuned. All right, we are back. The pasta dough is looking dynamite. It was resting in the fridge for about 30 minutes. You can leave it longer if you want to or need to. But it's nice and solid. Feels good. And now all I'm going to do, I got my handy dandy pasta roller here. You can get these all over the place. I think you can get them at Walmart, Amazon, wherever. I'm not sure exactly where I got mine. I've had it for many years. The way this works is you put the pasta in the top and you decrease with each roll, each passing, you decrease the size or the width rather of the gap between these two rollers with this dial right here. So I'm starting on 1. Some of these go down to 0. Mine goes down to 1 and then up to 6. So I'm just going to cut off a small piece on the end. And I usually just kind of squish it out a little bit with my fingers so it's not too thick when I'm putting it in there in the roller. And then it's just a matter of grabbing the roller, and then I'll immediately shift my hand down below and grab it as it comes out. And there we go. It's already gotten a little bit bigger. Now switch to number 2. And I'm going to put it back in there. And we just do this over and over again until you get to the desired thickness that you're looking for. I usually go to around 4 or 5. Okay, so that's after number 2. Now I'm going to go to 3. Oh, that jumped to 4. There we go. Now we're on 3. And sometimes as it gets wider, you need to kind of guide it this way or that so that it doesn't get jammed into the side of the unit. And I should probably get a little bit of flour on this. It's starting to stick to itself a little bit. Let me see if I can get this unstuck. There we go. So that's not looking bad. Let me just get a little bit of flour here, dust it. And it's really not a problem to put flour on the pasta because as soon as you put it in the water to boil it, that flour is going to come off anyway. So we are at number 3. I'm going to go to 4. Got to tighten up my base here a little bit. Go to number 4. That might be enough. We'll see. See how it's looking and feeling after I get it through there. So it does get wider, but the main thing it does is gets longer. And what I'm shooting for is something that's fairly close to my towel here, because we're going to take this pasta and roll it up in the towel after we've spread the spinach over the top of that. So I've got a couple more of these to roll out, and let me get those done. We'll get that part of it assembled, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I rolled out 2 more. I had to trim the ends of them off a little bit. I want a little bit more of a square end on there. And so just real carefully so I don't cut my towel, trim that off, and then to make sure they stay together nicely, I'm just going to add a little bit of water here to the edges so they kind of stick together, because in a minute here we're going to roll these up over each other into our roto. And actually they're already sticking together pretty well, so maybe I don't need to be doing that. All right, so that's looking dynamite, and our spinach, ricotta, and rondelle cheese is looking absolutely delicious. So now I'm just going to spread this out in a nice even layer. Nothing to it. Doesn't that look beautiful? I wish you could smell this. All the great flavors in here. Really, really yummy. And once we get this done and slice it up and serve it, it looks absolutely beautiful. So this is one of those dishes, if you're willing to go through the steps and make some amazing homemade pasta, it'll really make a great impression on friends or family or whoever you're serving it to. So we've got it all spread out, and now I've got a little bit of Parmesan Asiago. Just gonna spread a little dash of that, just to get a little bit different flavor. All these different cheeses have different flavors to them. Okay, so as you can see, I laid everything out on a towel, and that is because that's what we're going to use to help get this thing rolling. And then I'm going to wrap it up in the towel, put it in the boiling water, and let it cook for about 15 minutes. So I can get the edge of the roll going just like that with the towel, and maybe keep on going with that a little bit. That was really kind of handy. And just keep it rolling along. And there we go. That's looking lovely. All nice and even. And now we just got to finish it off by rolling up the rest of the towel on there. And now I'm going to tie it off. I've got some pieces of string here that I pre-cut, so they're ready to go. Tie it off on each end, and then I'm going to do a couple more in the middle. And then I'm going to drop it right over here in my boiling water. Let it cook for 10-15 minutes. And it's going to be fabulous. So we'll be back in just a sec. All right, got it all rolled up, tied it off in a few places. That's just to kind of help keep it together so it doesn't unroll when we put it in the boiling water. And now it's just a matter of scooping it up, leave the towel on there, and curl it up as gentle as you can. And where are my tongs? All right, it's in the water, put the lid back on. Gonna let that cook for about 15 minutes, and then put it in some sauce. Bake it off for just a couple minutes in the oven, and it's gonna be fabulous. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. Take this out of the water. Okay, so our pasta has cooked for about 15 minutes or so in the water. I just took it out a minute or two ago, got it untied. I'm just kind of letting it cool down just a touch, because that'll help things to firm up. Because now I'm going to unroll it, cut it into slices, and put it in some delicious pasta sauce, tomato sauce, and then just finish it off with a little bit of cheese under the broiler, and it kind of toasts off the edge and crisps it up a little bit. And it looks absolutely beautiful, and it tastes even better. So here we go. Let's get the last of it unwrapped. Whoops. Looks like my pasta broke there in a couple of spots. That's okay. We don't have to use those. Okay. So let's get that out of the way. So now we can see you got a beautiful roll here. I'm just going to kind of cut through this and get some nice little slices. And look at that. Can you see that? Beautiful pasta and the cheese in the middle. Absolutely beautiful. I'm just going to trim the end of this one off. Might be a little more pasta on there than we'd like. So this is getting pretty toasty. I like to preheat the sauce a little bit, so we're not having to heat up everything and the pan and the sauce when we put it in the broiler. So look at those slices. You got the cheese in there. Awesome pasta. Just beautiful, and oh so yummy with all the different flavors we've got going on. So let me just get a couple more of these. That middle one, it'll still be delicious, but I wouldn't maybe serve that one to a guest. Okay, so that looks dynamite. Get some of that spinach back in there. Okay, looking absolutely beautiful. Take my tongs without the string, and I'm just going to place these in the sauce ever so nicely. See how that looks. Ooh, these are just looking so yummy. I can't wait to cut into some of these. Let me get one more nice looking one for in there. There we go. Okay, that looks great. So I've got a little bit more of my Parmesan Asiago. Sprinkle that over the top of each one of those. There we go. All right, so I'm going to pop this into the broiler, kind of toast up the top of it, get that cheese melted down, and we're going to be good to go for an absolutely delicious meal of Rotolo di Spinachi. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a second with the final result. All right, well, there you have it, the delicious Rotolo di Spinachi with amazing homemade pasta. Now you see how simple it is to make it. A delicious spinach and cheese stuffing, all rolled up. Just finished it off in the broiler, a little cheese on top. It kind of toasted it off, crisps up the edges a little bit. Serve this with a salad and a nice big piece of crunchy bread, and you've got yourself a heck of a meal. So I hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks for joining me, and let me know if you make this dish. I'd love to hear how it turns out. Thanks again for spending a few moments in the kitchen with Andy.